I'm waiting for you, Catherine, to tell me when to start.
She's in the technical room, told us to give us 1 more minute. They're fixing the live stream.
Okay.
Do you need a list of board members for roll?
Rob is going to call roll.
Okay.
Sorry?
No, I just want to make
Rob
sure
is
somebody has the
calling.
list.
Yeah, there's
The
somebody at the
Honorable John
roll.
King is present.
We're live.
Good.
We're live.
Okay. Good morning. The time is 8:33 a.m. I call to order the June 21st, 2024 special meeting of the Contractors State License Board. I am Diana Love, CSLB's board chair. Please note that board members are on camera at different locations for this meeting. We recommend during the meeting that members at each location keep their sound on mute unless speaking to prevent audio issues. When you would like to comment during the meeting, select the raise your hand icon in the WebEx application. I will call on board members to speak, and I will try to call on each location for board member comment and public comment in the same order as listed on the notice of this special meeting. When called upon, please unmute yourself, and when finished, return to mute. Also, board members, since we are in all different locations with many of us grouped together on a single camera, it will be helpful if you identify yourself for the record before you speak. We also have several CSLB staff at different locations for this meeting. Joining us in Sacramento is Registrar David Folk, Chief Deputy Registrar Mike Jamiski, and our board legal counsel, John Ken. The first item of business is roll call. Robin, please confirm board members' attendance and call roll.
Are we going to do the Pledge of Allegiance first?
And do you want to have the Pledge of Allegiance before we call roll?
Yes. Is Michael Mark in the room?
He's in.
There he
Yes.
Michael, would you do the roll? Would you do the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
All rise. Take off your baseball hats. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And also, Robin, would you let me know if there are any excused absences?
Yes. Diana Love,
Present.
Joel Barton,
Here.
Rodney Cobos,
Here.
Miguel Galarza.
Here.
Amanda Gallo has an excused absence. Susan Granzello.
Here.
Alan Guy.
Here.
Jacob Lopez has an excused absence. Michael Mark.
Here.
Henry Nutt.
Present.
Steve Pinelli.
Here.
Jim Ruane.
Here.
Thomas Ruiz has an excused absence, and Mary Tyker has an excused absence. We have a quorum.
Thank you. And I heard the names of Amanda, Jacob, Mary, and what was the fourth person?
Thomas Ruiz.
Thomas, okay. I will recognize those four as having excused absence for the record. Thank you, Robin. Next on the agenda is item B, special meeting, finding of necessity for special meeting. As you know, the board has convened a special meeting today to discuss and consider action on proposed legislation on which the board must take action no later than 1 week. California Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act requires the Contractors State License Board to adopt a finding by a 2/3 vote that the usual 10-day notice requirement would cause a substantial hardship on the board to consider this proposed legislation. And this is under California Government Code Section 11125.4C. The finding must be made at the commencement of the board meeting and provide specific facts to support the finding. Failure to adopt the finding will determine today's special meeting, will terminate today's special meeting. If this occurs, the board will be prohibited from continuing this meeting and will not be able to take action on this crucial and time-sensitive proposed legislation. Again, the finding must be adopted by 2/3 of the board members present. Can I get a motion to adopt the following findings? The board must find that providing 10 days advance notice of this meeting would pose a substantial hardship on the board and that immediate action is required to protect the public's interests. In that, next Tuesday, June 25th, 2024, the board's Sunset Extension Bill, SB 1455, is being heard for the last time in a policy committee of the legislature, and the board has not yet committed to its full support of the bill. If the board does not support its own sunset bill, there is subsequent risk that the legislator will also not support it, or the bill will not be passed out of Assembly Business and Professions Committee. If this occurs, CSLB could be sunsetted and cease to exist, which means we would not be a bureau or a board. If the board waits 10 days before taking a position at a regularly noticed public meeting, the bill will have been heard in the legislature before the board meeting and without a record of the board's support. If the board is sunsetted, it would harm the public, which has an interest in the board continuing its mandate of protecting the public by setting minimum standards for contractor licensure, by disciplining licensees, and by removing bad contractors from the marketplace. The board's next quarterly meeting is planned for September 2024, approximately 3 months after the scheduled sunset hearing. In light of the bill hearing next Tuesday, there is insufficient time for the board to provide 10 days advance notice of a meeting, and today's meeting on shortened notice is necessary to timely communicate the board's position before the hearing. Can I get a motion to adopt the finding of the necessary for today's special meeting? The necessity of the day's special meeting.
So moved, Kobos.
And can you tell me which location you're at, Ken?
Second, Michael Mark.
Yeah, Rodney?
And Michael Mark second.
And Michael Mark second.
Okay. And can you, Robin, would you call roll?
Diana Love,
Yes.
Joel Barton,
Aye.
Rodney Kobos,
Aye.
Before we take roll, council, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to clarify the motion and then ask if there's board or public comment. And the motion is to adopt the findings set forth by the chair of substantial hardship that support today's special meeting.
Rodney moved and Michael Mark seconded, and then we should ask for comments.
You are correct. I apologize for that. Are there any comments or questions from the board? And Robin, I'll need for you to look in each, or Catherine, in each location to let me know.
It's an in-person meeting, so the board members present can represent whether or not there's public in the room with them wishing to make comment.
We have none here in San Francisco.
Should we go by office location,
Yeah.
John?
Do we have any comments in Norwalk,
No comments in Norwalk.
public or the board?
No comments.
Okay, Sacramento,
No comment.
San Bernardino,
No comment.
San Francisco,
No comment.
and here in Valencia, no comment. And that is for both the board and for the public. I will then go forward and ask for the roll call on the motion that was moved by Kevin Albanese and seconded by Michael Mark.
Diana Love,
Yes.
Joel Barton,
Aye.
Rodney Cobos,
Aye.
Miguel Galarza,
Aye.
Amanda Gallo has an excused absence, Susan Granzella,
Aye.
Alan Guy,
Aye.
Jacob Lopez has an excused absence, Michael Mark,
Aye.
Henry Nutt,
Aye.
Steve Benelli,
Aye.
Jim Ruane,
Aye.
Thomas Ruiz has an excused absence, Mary Tucker has an excused absence, motion passes.
Thank you, Robin. Moving to the next item, which is agenda item B, public comments for items not on the agenda and future agenda items requests. The board values public input as part of our consumer protection mission. To allow us enough time to conduct for our full schedule of business today, I am limiting public comments to 3 minutes apiece. If your comments don't involve an item on today's agenda, this will be the time where you make them. If you have comments on one of our agenda items, we encourage you to wait until we get to that item. We will give you the opportunity to make your comments at that time. We also ask that your public comment relate to the agenda item currently before the board. There are a few other rules that apply. First, California law prohibits board members from discussing any matter brought up during public comment, and board members are not allowed to act on any item not on today's agenda. Second, if you want the board to discuss a topic not on the agenda, you can ask us to consider placing that issue on the agenda of a future meeting. And finally, if you have an application, complaint, or disciplinary charges pending before the board, we ask that you do not discuss the details of your case or pending complaint. And that is because board members may be the judges and by law are not permitted to receive evidence of information that is not part of the administrative record in the case. I'm calling on any of the board members, and I'll go down the locations again to see if there are any items to be placed on future agendas. Norwalk,
None here.
Sacramento,
None here.
San Bernardino,
None here.
San Francisco,
None here.
and here in Valencia, there are none. And that is for both the board and the public. Thank you. We will move now to our sole item for discussion and possible action, which is item D. This is to review, discuss.
We're back.
Madam Chair, we froze before the San Bernardino request if there was anything for future agenda items. If you could back up, please.
You froze after I said San Bernardino?
Yeah, before Member Cobos spoke.
Okay. So I started with Norwalk and then Sacramento.
That's where we froze. Now, if you could continue with San Bernardino, that we would appreciate.
Okay, so San Bernardino,
No comment.
San Francisco,
No comment.
and here in Valencia, there is no comment. And now I will move to item D, which is our sole item for discussion and possible action today. Review,
Public comment.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, can you just run through the 5 offices and make sure there's no public comment as well on item C?
okay, when I asked was there for board and public comment, but I'll go back again. Is there any public comment in the following locations for future agenda items? Norwalk office,
No public comment.
Sacramento,
No public comment.
San Bernardino,
No public
San
comment.
Francisco,
No public
and here
comment.
in Valencia, no public comment.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And now, moving to item D. Review, discussion, and possible action on Senate Bill 1455 by Senator Ashby, the Contractors Licensing CSLB Sunset Extension Bill. And for this item, I'm going to turn it over to Registrar David Folk.
Thank you, Chair Love, and I want to thank all the board members for taking time to attend this very important meeting today. At the board meeting last Thursday, June 13th, 2024, the board discussed Senate Bill 1455 that was introduced by Senator Ashby. At that meeting, I was caught a little off guard regarding the bill discussion, and I regret not doing a better job of explaining the benefits of Senate Bill 1455. Senate Bill 1455 extends the board's sunset date from 2025 to 2029. CSLB is not the sponsor of Senate Bill 1455. The bill was introduced by Senate Business and Professions Chair Angelique Ashby. As stated by Chair Love, the Contractor State License Board will cease to exist January 1st, 2025, if not extended by Chair Ashby's bill. We previously discussed the possibility of CSLB becoming a bureau, but that option has been removed from the law. I want to mention some of the benefits of Senate Bill 145, and one of the first benefits is that it includes almost all of the board new issues in need of legislative fix. I know you all recall that in prior board meetings, we've discussed legislative needs that will benefit consumer protection. At the meeting last Thursday, board members expressed concern that SB 1455 extended the date for all contractors to secure workers' compensation insurance. It extended the date from January 1st, 2026 to January 1st, 2028, or it does currently extend the date, as I just mentioned. Board members expressed concern about the extension because CSLB currently has 117,000 licensed contractors that have an exemption from workers' compensation on file. Our enforcement actions confirm that many licensees with an exemption from workers' compensation do employ workers. And so it does pose a consumer protection or a public protection issue. At the June 13th meeting, the board voted to support Senate Bill 1455 with a request that the bill be amended to return the mandatory workers' compensation compliance date to January 1st, 2026. At that meeting, I talked about being surprised by the extension. However, when I returned to the office on Monday of this week, I discovered I should not have been surprised for the following reasons. Just reflecting back on some of what's happened legislatively, I was reminded that Senator Dodd carried the CSLB-sponsored bill, Senate Bill 216, that currently requires workers' compensation insurance for 5 classifications. And that bill, as it currently stands, would require all licensees to have workers' compensation by 2026. But again, that's what we're talking about. The current sunset extension bill would extend that to 2028. Senator Dodd, other legislators, and CSLB have received complaints from licensees that are now required to purchase workers' compensation insurance for workers they do not have. So there are contractors, generally sole owners, small contractors, that have come to us and said, we only do work ourselves, we have no employees, now we have this additional expense that's of no benefit. The cost of a workers' compensation policy, what we generally refer to as a minimum policy, meaning you're not claiming to have any workers or providing any payroll, it ranges from $2,000 to $7,000 per year. And again, that payment doesn't benefit, and as an example, a sole owner that doesn't have any workers. Senator Dodd requested CSLB's assistance in identifying a way for contractors to legally avoid purchasing workers' compensation insurance when they truly do not have workers. So recognizing there's some out there that don't have workers, is there a method to provide them an exemption while requiring those that absolutely have workers or have workers to have workers' compensation insurance? CSLB sponsored 2 stakeholder meetings and attempt to develop a strategy or a plan. Unfortunately, those 2 stakeholder meetings were not successful. This legislative session, Senator Dodd introduced Senate Bill 1071 that would, in effect, unwind Senate Bill 216 by, again, permitting licensees to file an exemption from workers' compensation insurance. And it's important to note here that this would impact the 5 classifications currently required to have workers' compensation insurance. So that bill would have really undone the mandatory requirement for 5 classifications that are currently required to have workers' comp today. And one of those is the roofing classification. And that there's been a requirement that roofing contractors have workers' compensation insurance for more than 10 years. I also want to mention that there was no industry opposition on file for Senate Bill 1071. So again, Senator Dodd's bill had no opposition from industry. It would have put things back where all licensees could file an exemption from workers' compensation insurance. The amendment to Senate Bill 1455, the amendment in the Senate bill takes the place of Senate Bill 1071. And again, this is beneficial to CSLB because it does not repeal the current mandatory workers' comp requirement for the 5 classifications. It provides CSLB until January 2027 to possibly identify a method for licensees to legitimately avoid having to purchase workers' compensation insurance when they do not have employees. Now, I also want to mention that the bill does not mandate the CSLB determine there's a certain number of contractors that should be exempt. It only requires the CSLB make a good faith effort to identify if there are licensees, example being a sole owner that's doing work under a certain dollar amount that doesn't have employees and could qualify legitimately for an exemption from workers' compensation insurance. Again, it doesn't mandate that the board make a finding that there are contractors that don't have workers, only we make a good faith effort to come up with some type of strategy or to further review this. CSLB has a 2-person board member advisory committee. It's comprised of Michael Mark and Miguel Galarza. And Michael Mark and Miguel Galarza are well equipped to take the lead on this study. The extension will further benefit CSLB because we reported in the Sunset background paper that CSLB will likely lose 10% of the licensees. And that's going to be a bit of a budget hit. The staffing resources are greater to handle workers' compensation insurance policies. If we receive 110,000 additional workers' compensation insurance policies, we will need more staff. For someone to file an exemption from workers' compensation insurance, when you first make application, you submit a form, you can check that you have no workers at that time, and then subsequently, when you renew your license, you check the renewal form that you do not have workers. A lot of that's done electronically. With the workers' compensation insurance policies, we have to check them for accuracy. They have an expiration or a cancellation date. If they expire, if they're canceled and they're not replaced, the license is suspended. All very important work, but it does take resources to do that. I think all of you are aware that today the state of California is facing a fairly significant state budget deficit, and that deficit is restricting or inhibiting our ability to hire additional staff. Now, we hope that if with this extension, we'll have time to hire additional staff because the budget deficit will be resolved. So to clarify, and I also want to clarify when staff became aware of the mandatory compliance date. You will recall that CSLB conducted a 2-day board meeting April 17th and 18th in Sacramento. The revised language, the language that extended the mandatory date from 2026 to 2028 was added to the Senate bill on the 18th. So it was added to the Senate bill the second day of that 2-day board meeting. It was not included in your packet. It was not discussed at that board meeting. But staff did become aware of that amendment to Senate Bill 1455 and testified in the Senate Business and Professions Committee hearing on April 22nd. Staff testified, excuse me, in support of the Senate bill on that date. I also want to note that there was no industry opposition received for Senate Bill 1455. And just kind of closing this out, when Senate Bill 1455 is enacted, there will be a 1-year period for cleanup legislation to address any concerns that may arise. So, in closing, Senate Bill 1455 is needed to extend CSLB. The work CSLB performs is extremely important to the protection of California consumers. I want to thank Senator Ashby and the Sunset Review Committee for including CSLB's legislative needs in Senate Bill 1455 and for their consideration on a 4-year extension for CSLB. Anything other than full support by the board tells the legislature that CSLB does not care to exist. The staff recommendation is for support of Senate Bill 1455. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Are there any questions or comments from the board? And I will start in Norwalk.
Yeah, Joel Barton, I just have one. Is there any way to find out why this amendment was inserted? And if so, anything on record of which legislator added this amendment?
Repeat that.
Can you repeat that?
Or can we repeat it?
Yeah, I would just, if Director Folk would know, or if we could look into, because again, this amendment was added after our meeting, and if there's any way to find out which legislator or who added this amendment and why they thought they should do so.
Well, it's our understanding that the amendment was added, it was in relationship to the Dodd bill that I previously mentioned. The Dodd bill did not proceed because, it's my understanding, Senator Dodd was in agreement that they would add the amendment to the sunset bill. And there was 2 parts to that. One was that the board would study and determine if there are in fact licensees that do not have workers, and also to extend the compliance date out to 2028. So that was made so that the Dodd bill that would have unwound the prior mandatory requirement did not proceed. So it's kind of I'm not sure if I'm explaining that well, but it took the place of the Dodd bill. This amendment to the sunset bill took the place of the Dodd bill. So I don't think anybody here was part of those negotiations, but I personally have met with Senator Dodd. He's been a strong supporter of the board over the years. He does have a concern that there are some contractors that don't have workers that were negatively impacted by Senate Bill 216. And so I know he's looking for a possible solution to that and wanted to extend it up. So it's our understanding that Senator Dodd did meet with the chair, Senator Ashby, and this was the resolution. So his bill did not proceed. It was added to the sunset bill.
Thank you, Dave. The next location, Sacramento. Any questions, comments?
No.
San Bernardino?
No comment.
San Francisco?
No comment.
And here in Valencia, no comment. Okay, that will take us now to our vote. And thank you, Dave, for the presentation and explanation. With that, staff is asking the board for full, unconditional support of SB 1455 by Senator Ashby, the board's sunset extension bill, so that staff may testify to that position at the bill's hearing in the Assembly on Tuesday, and that is this Tuesday coming. Do I have a motion to that effect?
Well, we have to get public comment first, don't we? We have to get public comment first?
We can have a motion and second and then ask for public comment.
All right, I'll motion Steve Pinelli to accept. Second, Alan Guy.
And who's the second from again?
Alan Guy.
Thank you. I will now ask if there are any public comments, and I will start in Norwalk.
I just have one, Chairman Love, procedurally on this vote. An abstention, would that count in regards to the 2/3 requirement, or would an abstention not count at all towards no and yes?
I'll refer that to our legal counsel.
An abstention on the motion can be made, which will not affect the 2/3 vote that was taken previously to authorize this meeting.
Thank you.
And this is a vote on a motion after board and public comment that only requires a majority.
Okay, any comments in Sacramento?
No comment.
San Bernardino?
No public comment, but just a question. The motion is to support the bill with the board's amendments of changing the dates.
It's actually going back to where it was originally.
Is to fully support the bill as it currently reads without any conditions or request for amendments. The request for amendments that came out of the board meeting last week have not been accepted as of this date. So this is, as I understand, this is a motion to accept Senate Bill 1455 as it currently reads.
What? Again, just for clarification that the board's amendments were accepted by the author.
No, they were not accepted. The board's amendments from last week have not been accepted.
Got it. Understood. Thank you.
I see a hand raised, and I'm not sure which office that is for.
San Francisco.
Okay, haven't gotten there just yet. I'm at San Bernardino.
No public comment.
Okay, San Francisco.
Yeah, yes, this is Michael Mark. The way I understand the bill as it reads is full support as written currently. I know we had quite a bit of a discussion at our last board meeting on the workers' comp issue. And hearing from staff, the recommendation is with full support of this specific bill as written. It would make sure to increase and continue on our sunset and the continuation of CSLB. In my opinion, that is very valid for us to move this forward at the as a board, we would need this to continue our existence, and I appreciate staff working with legislators to actually get this thing across the finish line. Thank you.
Thank you. And here, any other comments in San Francisco?
There's no public comment.
Okay, and here in Valencia, no public comment. With that, I will move forward for a vote. Robin, please do a roll call.
Diana Love,
Yes.
Joel Barton,
I will have to abstain. I mean, I feel my comment, I understand the severity of not voting in favor of this, but I can't really in good conscience vote for something that doesn't include the addition of a shorter requirement for workers' compensation, because I do find it hard to believe that 50% of the contractors have no employees. But as long as it doesn't affect the vote, I'll abstain.
Rodney Cobos,
Aye.
Miguel Galarza,
Aye.
Amanda Guy has an excused absence, Susan Granzella,
Aye.
Alan Guy,
Aye.
Jacob Lopez has an excused absence, Michael Mark,
Aye.
Henry Nutt,
Aye.
Steve Pinelli,
Aye.
Jim Ruane,
Aye.
Thomas Ruiz has an excused absence, Mary Tykert has an excused absence. Motion passes.
Thank you, Robin. And thank all of you. And with that, I will take us to our final item for the day, and that is adjournment. This concludes our board business for today. Can I have a motion to adjourn the special meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Second by Cobos.
Who was that?
Seconded by Cobos.
And who did the first?
Steve Pinelli.
Who? Steve Pinelli?
Yes.
There was an echo. So was that Steve Pinelli?
Steve Pinelli.
Okay, thank you. And there is no roll call needed for this motion. With that, I will adjourn the meeting at 9:09. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, we can move forward.
You know. I know. It's all the same experience, but